So I'm on my way to the airport right now to catch a flight to Detroit for UFC 218 this weekend. And I've been wanting to do one of these for a while. And I was originally going to do a write-up where I broke down the fights, but I figured talking about them would be a little bit easier. And I got in the car and I've got a 3-hour drive to get there, so I said, fuck it, let's just do the first one now. So the way I want to format these, I think, is I'm probably going to talk about a couple events happening in the MMA world, whether it be rumors flying around or potential matchups out there. And then we'll move on to breaking down the main card for the pay-per-view events, at least. I might move on to like fight night events and stuff like that, but for now I think I'm just going to stick to the pay-per-view cards. Yeah, so if there are pauses or anything, it's probably because I'm driving, and drivers down south are fucking lunatics. I don't know how they let them all behind the goddamn wheel. I swear, it's like when you're driving in town in Richmond, you feel like when you're just in town, it's not so bad. I mean, you see dumb mistakes that they're making all the time, but then you let them all on the interstate at once, and it's fucking chaos. Anyway, I don't want to keep rambling on about that. I'm also talking to myself, so if there are pauses, it's just me trying to come up with something to say, because there's no one else here to fuel the conversation. But anyway, I think the first thing that we should probably start talking about is this Conor McGregor event where he allegedly goes in and beats the fuck out of some gang member, from what I understand of it. And I don't know. I don't really know what to say about shit like this, because first off, we don't know everything about it. And second, to me, this is just, I could be off on this, but it seems like a lot of the things that Conor does as far as promoting himself are very calculated. So, I mean, maybe he really did have beef with this guy, or maybe he popped off to him and he just started beating. I really don't know. But what Conor does a good job of is always keeping his name in the headlines. I mean, whether he's jumping over cages in Bellator, getting in fights with Mark Goddard, he does a good job of keeping himself relevant when he's not active. So, in my mind, this is kind of a ploy for that. I mean, also, if you look at his Instagram, he just was posting a bunch of shit about how he was late for like a $300 traffic ticket and the judge was all pissed off. I mean, I think the whole thing's kind of fucking stupid to keep up with. Like, I try not to get too involved with their personal lives, but Conor's such a star that, I mean, he's kind of transcended the sport, and everything he does is kind of like mainstream news now. So I thought we should bring that up and at least discuss it. But to me, it's just him keeping himself relevant. I mean, if that means breaking a couple rules here and there, I think he's fine with that. If it means he's gonna keep his name, because he loves attention too. Like, it's not like he's just trying to sell the fights. Conor actually, he loves being the center of attention. Like, he thrives off that. So if he's not getting it from fighting and having these massive crowds around him, he might as well do it in a way that's gonna at least get out on social media and all that stuff. The next thing that I'm way more interested in talking about is the potential for TJ Dillashaw and Demetrious Johnson to fight. Because Demetrious Johnson has kind of had an easy walk through the 125-pound division, and I think his last loss was to Dominic Cruz at 135 pounds. So, first off, a fight with TJ will kind of show us like what the talent pool at 125 looks like, because Demetrious so far outclasses everyone in that division that it feels like they might not be as good. But if TJ Dillashaw comes down to 125 and he fucks up Dillashaw, then you start going, okay, maybe these people, because 125 is all competitive within themselves. Like Henry Cejudo and Benavidez and Sergio Pettis. And Cejudo Pettis is a great fight this weekend, by the way. But these people are all, like, when they fight, you don't really know who's going to win. Then they fight Johnson, and it's like, well, fuck. They're kind of fucking, they're out of gas before they even get in the goddamn car. So I also have massive interest in this fight because TJ definitely has an alpha male mentality where, like, he wants to push forward. He's aggressive. He's not moving backwards. I mean, if you watch him in the Cruz fight, he is marching Cruz down. There's a good argument that he won that fight, but he's always marching Cruz down. And that's just his mentality and, like, the way he fights. And I like that style against Demetrious Johnson, because whenever you see Mighty Mouse fight these guys, he kind of puts them into positions, like, very early on where he's outclassing them so poorly in the first round that they go into this defensive shell, and then they're just trying to survive. And they're sitting there and I'm like, fuck, I just want to get out of the round. You know what I mean? So when you put a guy like TJ in there, though, the guy lives, eats, and breathes this stuff. You know what I mean? Like, his mentality is going to be to push forward no matter what. And, I mean, I think you could probably argue against that until you saw him fight Cody Garbrandt and get put in some serious danger at the end of the first round. Like, he was wobbling, and he stood up, didn't know where he was, walked back to his corner, and then he recuperates and comes out and fucking kicks Cody Garbrandt's ass, essentially, in the second round and finishes him and puts him away. I mean, he hit him with a head kick that just kind of turned the lights off for Cody. And so I don't think TJ Dillashaw is the kind of guy that you can put into this defense. I think, like, his game plan would be to go out and figure out how to mix up his attacks and start landing, you know what I mean? But if he even loses the first round. So I like that fight a lot because I think it will, do leaps and bounds for Johnson's popularity. I mean, why the people hate the guy is beyond me. I mean, I guess you could get pissed at him for turning down the Ray Borg fight, or accepting the Ray Borg fight, turning down the TJ fight, sorry. But people didn't really like him before that, and he's got an alright personality, you know what I mean? He's interacting with fans, he loves that fucking gaming channel, what's it called, Twitch or whatever, so I don't get all the resistance against the guy, but a fight like this, I mean, it's probably not huge, but it's still more notable than a lot of the wins that Johnson's collected over his career. So now I guess we should move on to the UFC 218 card this weekend, which is fucking stacked from top to bottom. I mean, the opening event on the main card, I think, is Tecia Torres and Michelle Waterson. And admittedly, I don't know a ton about either fighter. I mean, I saw Waterson beat Van Zant, and I know they both have mutual losses to Rose, who's the champ now, who just knocked out Joanna. But I haven't seen a lot to go off on this one. All I know is I think Torres, I believe, is riding a 2-fight win streak. And I think Waterson's most recent loss is to Rose. So, I don't know. I mean, they're both really well-rounded, and Waterson has awesome jiu-jitsu, and I don't know. I just don't know enough to speak a lot about how I think they're going to implement a game plan or how they go about getting wins in this fight. I think I like Torres just based off the fact that she's riding a 2-fight win streak, and I just have a gut feeling that she's going to be able to pull it off. You got to wonder where Michelle's head's at after, I mean, you know what I mean, getting strangled by Rose and coming off a loss like that. So I like where Ticia's at right now. I think the momentum will carry her into a win. I have no prediction about the rounds or anything like that. Which, by the way, part of the reason I want to do this podcast is because I think it'll make me, like, right now I obviously don't have a computer to look things up, but it'll force me to absorb more information, and there's a good chance that I'll feed you guys some bullshit today as far as, like, numbers and stats go, but I can look those up and correct myself, and I think it's just good for learning more about the sport in general to talk about it and have yourself constantly checked by people listening. Anyway, so the next fight is going to be Henry Cejudo and Sergio Pettis, who have both looked fucking phenomenal lately, especially if you look at Cejudo's last fight against Wilson Hayes. And you gotta remember, like, when Cejudo gets into a fight, the first thing he's going to is wrestling. I mean, he's the youngest gold medalist in American history. But he comes out against Wilson Hayes and puts on a fucking striking clinic. Like, makes Wilson look kind of foolish, honestly. And Wilson's a world-class guy, you know, like, he's a great fighter, but Cejudo just came out and, like, I think you're going to run into, like, guys like Cejudo who have that champion. I mean, to win a gold medal in the Olympics, you have to have, I mean, a fucking unbreakable drive and an insane amount of determination, and your head is just in a different place than a lot of people. Not saying that he's ahead of Sergio mentally, but Sergio's younger, and I want to say Cejudo's he's got to be getting close to 30 if he's not already there. But, so he's, like, he doesn't have a ton of experience in MMA. I think if you looked at the records between the two, they both probably have a similar record. Like, I think they both have probably won somewhere between 10 and 13 fights and probably lost 2 to 3. But Cejudo has experience in the sense that he's been competing in a sport at the highest level for a long time, and he's figured out, he was the best at it. So I like Cejudo in this fight just because, for that reason alone. And I think it's one of those situations where it might be just a little bit too much too soon for Sergio. As far as MMA goes, like I said, they both have the same amount of experience, but I think that dealing with that kind of pressure that the Olympics gives you, and I think it's just going to overwhelm Sergio. I think Sergio is a future champion. Like, if you look at the way he moves and his ability to throw combos together, he looks great. It's just, I think he's going to get outclassed. And then I think Cejudo is going to be able to get the striking going well enough early that he's going to be able to mix in some takedowns and just keep Pettis guessing. But it's a great fight. I wouldn't be like shocked if Sergio's going to win, but I think the way he wins is he's got to keep Henry at bay, and he's got to keep him at the end of his punches. Like, he can't let Cejudo get in close and start landing those combos and then change levels and start landing the takedown. He's going to be fucked. But I'm interested to see. And these are two guys too. When you watch them fight, like, I know Cejudo has some mixed losses, like he just lost to Benavidez and he lost to Johnson. But every time you watch him fight, you can see improvements. And I guess we're gonna find out what Pettis is made of. This is no doubt the toughest fight of Pettis' career, but that's another thing to take into consideration. Like, this is not the toughest fight of Cejudo's career. He's fought Johnson. Like, he's experienced, like, fighting at the highest level and fighting Johnson. So I think that he's going to be able to bring that in, put that to use too. Next fight is Eddie Alvarez and Justin Gaethje. I don't know if you guys have kept up with the Ultimate Fighter at all. I don't think I want to anymore. It's kind of fucking boring. But, I'd just rather, like, that Tuesday Night Contender series that Dana does now, I like that a lot better. Like, I'd rather just see those same girls, like, come in and fight. Or those same guys, you know what I mean, from this season. Like, I would prefer to just see them fight. I don't really give a fuck about all their backstories and shit like that. And it's the same thing every year. For, like, the first few years it was cool. But I don't know. Anyway, they haven't had any real, like, drama or anything, and this is a weird thing to take away, but luckily it's not a 5-round fight, but they had this swimming competition, and Gaethje was gassed at the end of it. And obviously he hasn't gone through his camp yet, and his cardio is not where it needs to be, but Alvarez, like, was swimming all these laps and was fine. And so Alvarez is known to be a cardio machine, though. And I don't think with 3 rounds it's going to affect Gaethje too bad unless he pours it on, which he does in the first and wears himself out. If that's the case, I like Alvarez to kind of take over because I think he keeps himself in amazing shape all year round. But I still think Gaethje wins the fight. I think Alvarez is one of those guys who thrives off grinding out a win. Like, he likes to push people up against the fence and smash them and wear them out. And he dropped a bomb on Dos Anjos when he won the title. But in general, he likes to make it like a dirty kind of fight where things are in close, and he kind of lives off being able to push people, like, you know what I mean, impose his will. And I don't think Gaethje's the guy that you can do that to. Gaethje's a fucking wild man. If you watch a lot of his fights, he'll throw these punches that leave himself wide open. They got exposed in the Michael Johnson fight a little bit. Like, he got clipped a few times to the point where it's close to getting finished. But he just throws these massive fucking bombs. And you're sitting back and you're going, what the fuck? Like, he'll get tagged and he's just walking through it. I think he said himself that he's probably going to get knocked out at some point in his career, which is probably fucking true if he keeps it up. But I saw an interview and he was like, he'll march people down and let him punch them. Like, he'll cover up the rest of his face, but let him punch him in the head. Because I think he said something along the lines of, have you ever seen anyone get knocked out by getting punched in the forehead? I guess he's got a good fucking point, but how much brain trauma he's going to have to deal with after this is all over, who the fuck knows? But I still like him in this. Like I said, I think Eddie needs to kind of push you back and get you moving backwards, like the kind of fight he had against Pettis. And I don't think Gaethje is the guy that's going to let you do that. And I like Gaethje to win. If Alvarez does win, I think it's because Gaethje gasses himself out a little bit, and then Alvarez can kind of take over and impose his will a little bit more on him, like get him against the fence, start landing some takedowns, I don't think that Alvarez wants to get into a striking war here, so maybe Gaethje will come out swinging and he can maintain a little bit until the second round and kind of take over from there. The next fight on the card is Francis Ngannou and Alistair Overeem, which is a fucking monstrous fight, literally. I mean, you're looking at Ngannou, who is potential star. I mean, I don't even know how fucking tall he is. He's got to be like 6'5", like 240 pounds or something like that. But he has been tearing through. I think he's on a 5-fight win streak, and he's just been knocking people dead. And I think Joe Rogan just retweeted something, and he broke like the world record for punching power. Like, not in MMA, like in the world, at the UFC Performance Institute. So maybe I don't know. I guess it's the highest ever recorded. So, and with Alistair Overeem, I mean, probably the best kickboxer the heavyweight division's ever seen. Maybe Mark Hunt, you could argue. I don't know. They're pretty close. But he was a K1 Grand Prix champion, and the only thing that makes me nervous about Overeem is that he's been knocked out so many fucking times. I mean, if you look back through his record, I mean, he got smashed by Stipe. I mean, he's got to have like 10 or 11 losses from being knocked out, including kickboxing, I would guess. It's got to be somewhere around there. And he moved to Jackson Wink, I believe. And I think a lot of his ability in this fight is going to it's going to hinge on whether or not he can hit and not get hit. I mean, that sounds fucking obvious, but he's going to have to come up with some pretty creative ways to stay away from the power of Ngannou. I like Ngannou in this fight. I think he's going to win. I think he doesn't have youth on his side necessarily. I think he's a little bit older because he got into the game late. But he does have the advantage of not having his fucking ass kicked 10 or 11, you know what I mean, getting finished in a fight. I think that it's just kind of a matter of time before he touches Overeem. And I think when he does, it's gonna turn the lights off for him. The way that Overeem, in my opinion, wins this fight is by sitting back, kind of letting Ngannou punch himself out in the first round, and then coming back in the next rounds and hoping to outpoint him, like being extremely technical, a lot of head movement, a lot of footwork moving around. He's got to be evasive if he wants to win this fight, because Ngannou's not a guy that you can let punch you in the face and just walk away from it, take it on the chin. So yeah, I like Ngannou, and I like him in the second round. I think he's going to beat Overeem up pretty well in the first, and then he's going to come out and pour it on and get the finish in the second. But like I said, if Overeem can say, like, moving to Jackson Wink might have helped. He can, if they've got, I mean, people definitely improve there, but I think Brendan Schaub made a good point when he said it's like Florida for old people. I mean, you start to see your career going downhill, you're not hitting the milestones that you want, or you've just like noticed a dip in your performance. And usually it's because you're getting old. I mean, sometimes guys like Darren Elkin seems to be getting like revitalized, moving to, I think he moved to alpha male, but it's kind of not necessarily youth versus experience in this fight, because they're both older, but I think Ngannou's going to take it. And then finally, you get to the headliner between Max Holloway and Jose Aldo. And in the first fight, I can't remember what round he got knocked out in, but I think in the first fight, Holloway knocked Aldo out in the third round. And odds makers have this fight leaning pretty heavily in Holloway's favor. And I don't know. I also, for some reason, I think people look at Jose Aldo as old. I mean, he's been fighting for fucking forever. If you look at his WEC days, and how many fights he's had in the UFC, in wars against Frankie Edgar, Chad Mendez. He does have the miles on him, but he's not. I think he's only like 20. He's between maybe he's in his 30s now. He might be like 30 or 31. But arguably the greatest featherweight of all time, and it's just weird to see Max Holloway this young I don't want to call Holloway up and coming anymore because he's a champion, but he still has room to grow. And it's weird to see Aldo, who is arguably the greatest featherweight ever, be so heavily favored. Or Holloway so heavily favored over Aldo. I think that the way Aldo wins this fight is using leg kicks. Because Max is the kind of guy who, like, when you're standing there and striking with him, he's hard to time. And he never lets you get a good read on him. He's constantly, like, moving and, like, you know what I mean, switching stances. And he does a good job of, like, his timing is unpredictable. And he's not necessarily, I don't want to say he's unorthodox, but it's just, he's got, like, a different way of fighting. And it's effective. But if Aldo can get those leg kicks snapping early and kind of make Holloway sit there and go, what the fuck? Like, what the fuck? Because if you ever seen Aldo snap a leg kick, I mean, it's like, wha-pat! And it fucking hurts. You can tell, like, the guys, you can, like, see him wince. So if he can get those going, and I think make Holloway stand in stances that he doesn't want, like switch stances, switch his lead leg a lot, I think that you're going to see Aldo find a lot of success in this fight. I think I think Aldo wins this one. And I think, again, it all, like, the biggest factor in this for me is leg kicks. I guess in the last fight, Aldo's camp was claiming that he had an injury. Whether or not that's true or not, I mean, people are always getting fucking banged up before fights, right? And then they always say, they always say I don't want to make excuses, and they have an excuse. And they're probably legitimate excuses, but whether or not Aldo's leg was the reason he wasn't throwing leg kicks in that fight, I don't know. But if he can get them in there and make Max think about that one thing, I expect the first thing Aldo to do is come out and throw a leg kick, just to let him know. You know what I mean? Like, give him something to think about. I think this is a toss-up. I mean, like, I'm just going with Aldo off of gut feeling again, like I do most of these. I don't want to pretend like I know who's going to win and who's going to lose the fights, because it's fucking impossible to predict them. I mean, if you would have asked me at 217 if Rose was going to knock out Joanna in the first round, I'd say, fuck no. But, you know, that's how it goes. Yeah, I'm taking Aldo in the third. I think he's going to put him away. Or if he doesn't, I guess there's a good chance that it goes to a decision as well. And now that I think about it, the finish is probably more likely to come on Holloway's end. If he can get the jab going for him early and start mixing things up and kind of, you know, because you got to wonder where Aldo's head's at too. Like, it must be hard to fight someone and go back and fight them again. And I think this fight's on slightly short notice. Like, it's not terrible, but it's out there a little bit. And, like, know that you already lost them and step in there again, knowing that what you did last time wasn't effective enough to beat them and that you have to change. You have to do something different in order to get a different result. And Holloway's going to be riding confidence into this fight. Because, I mean, it's just... And the kid doesn't give a... Like, he doesn't care. If you look at... I was looking at his Instagram and someone said when he found out that he was fighting Aldo instead of Edgar, he's just like, hey, it is what it is. I mean, he doesn't... Shit doesn't bother him. So... I think if you see a finish in this fight, it comes from Holloway, and I think if you're going to see Aldo win, it's going to come from a decision. I thought he was going to finish him, but I backed off that. I think he's probably going to grind out like a really kind of like he did against Frankie Edgar, like a technical, thought out, well executed game plan. So that's it. I guess to recap, from the bottom up, I'm taking Torres, riding off the momentum. I'm taking Cejudo, just from years of high-level experience. That's my main deciding factor there. I'm taking Gaethje over Alvarez. I am taking Ngannou over Overeem. And I like Aldo to beat Holloway in the rematch, which that kind of fucking sucks, right? Because if you look at a guy who's always on the cusp of a title shot, it's Frankie Edgar. I mean, he's always right there, and you're always like, Frankie's always a couple fights away from fighting for the title, and he finally gets it, and then he fractured his orbital bone or some shit like that. And it sucks because I'm a massive Frankie Edgar fan, and I mean, who's going to want to see him fight Jose Aldo for the third time? He's already lost him twice. It reminds me of when Edgar fought BJ Penn, beat him twice, and then fought him again and smashed him the third time. I just feel like Aldo is Frankie Edgar's kryptonite, and he's as many times as they could fight that fight 15 times, and Aldo's probably going to win close to every single one of them, like 14 out of 15. I don't know why I fucking picked 15 instead of like 10 or 100 or something. But yeah, so that's it. I might roll more of these out as the pay-per-views keep coming along. It's kind of awkward, like I said, just sitting here talking to yourself and trying to make. And I feel like this first one's probably pretty unstructured first off, and then a lot of pauses and stuttering and stuff. But I think as I do more of them, I might talk about it with other friends of mine too. I think that would help ease some of the like gaps in silence and shit, and help the conversation flow a little bit easier. It's fucking hard to talk to yourself for like 30 minutes. But all right, guys, that's it. Catch you later.